Hello, I'm Chuck Martin, and welcome to the Voices of the Internet of Things. With me today is Dave Rogers, president of the lifestyle division of Harman, a wholly owned subsidiary of Samsung Electronics. Dave has been vice president at Klipsch Audio Technology, president of consumer audio, vice president and general manager of global markets at Harman, senior vice president of consumer audio, and president of consumer audio at Harman. In his current role at Harman, Dave leads the operations of the lifestyle division, where he oversees 8,000 employees with engineering, manufacturing, sales, and marketing centers around the globe. Welcome here, Dave.
Hello, good to talk to you.
I wonder, I know the Harman brands, obviously. I wonder if you could just go through some of the brands and also some of your success at CES this year.
Sure, we can do that. So, we have in the lifestyle division, there's two businesses, our professional division and also our consumer audio business as well. And within that, we have a portfolio of brands, roughly 16 brands that we have in consumer. The lead brands are JBL, Harman Kardon, AKG, Infinity. We also, in our luxury portfolio, which is part of our consumer audio business, we have brands like Revel, JBL Synthesis, Mark Levinson, and others. In our pro business, JBL, AKG, Digitech, Martin Lighting, AMX, and others. Those are just a few. But we have a broad suite of brands that we use in order to meet the needs of our customers.
How do you keep track of so many?
Well, we have a great team of people that really spend their lives dedicated to producing incredible products across the broad number of portfolios. And in each brand serves a specific purpose and a specific customer need. And really, if we focus on the end user's need, whoever that may be, whether it's professional installation, somebody's trying to do a great concert event, or a small tavern and they want the best acoustics, or on the consumer side, somebody that's streaming content and wants an incredible experience, an elevated experience. If we focus on that, there's a natural fit for each of these brands and what we're trying to do.
Do they end up competing at all?
No, there are a couple of categories where, we'll have products in that same, category. For instance, in a consumer business, in the headphone space, which is extremely competitive, not just within Harman. There's so many makers of headphones. We have, AKG headphones. We have JBL headphones, and there are a couple of Harman Kardon headphones as well. But again, use case based, and the customer that they're trying to reach is different. And so I think it's important, again, that we focus on that. In our portable audio business, where we have a number one market share, we built it over a number of years to 48% globally. And we've had broad success across most countries across the globe. The JBL brand is number one, but we do have a significant share with our Kardon brand as well.
Yeah, I know AKG. I actually use the AKG microphone, which I am now in earphones headset as well. And this is not a product placement because this is not sponsored in any way. This is the people who are on the podcast are people I think should be on the podcast. That's it. So there are no ads or anything. I wonder if you could talk about CES. Usually at CES, every year I visit when Harman takes over the entire Hard Rock cafe, the casino, hotel, everything at Hard Rock. And your display is phenomenal there with car audio and so forth. What did we miss at CES this year by not having it physical from a Harman standpoint?
To me, CES is one of the pinnacle events of the year, along with the IFA show, in Europe. Those two events, we really build our whole product portfolio and product launches around those two time periods. And CES in particular gives us the opportunity for a global community to come in, fly in, and we can do a number of things. One is we're going to launch a number of new products. Two, we can talk about our strategy to reach the end user. And three, we put these new products in the context of the existing products. Not every product turns over every year. A number of them do. And so when a new product comes in, how does it fit? How does it differ? How do we connect to the end user? And then communicate that to our customers, the people we sell to, because we have a bit of a direct business through e-commerce. But our main focus is retailers and e-tailers that are our partners. And so giving them that is important. The other piece that we missed, well, I'll come back to what we missed, but the other thing that we try to achieve is by showing our other division, our automotive division, it really lets our customers, the retailers and e-tailers, understand who Harman is, the larger Harman, and how our technological innovation occurs and how we share across the automotive division and the lifestyle division. What we missed is really the context piece, this piece where if I have a line of portable Bluetooth speakers and I'm launching 2 new ones, 4 continue on, how does it impact that whole line? Because it was difficult to do. We did that virtually this year.
And did that work?
Yes, I think it was a success. I mean, I think our team did an incredible job, from our CEO Michael Mauser down to the product teams and the communications teams, to really get across the key points. But what we were really conscious of is, in a 30-minute time period, because we felt that we would lose the attention of our customers, staring at a video screen, conveying new product after product. So we really focused our message. It caused us to be very concise, to be able to, really draw out the most important and salient points. So yeah, we've got a lot of great feedback, and the concert that we had following that event, I had so many of our customers reach out to us and tell us how, and also that many people in the press that attended as well, tell us how successful they thought it was.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, that was Harman Explore, and the concert was with Keith Urban, which I watched the whole thing, by the way. It was really amazing. I mean, for one person alone doing that.
He has such great energy, and he showed it, and passion for what he does. It just exuded from his performance. Well, I was thrilled with it.
What also showed his talent. That he is that good. He is that good. So what is the pandemic change for Harman? I mean, I know for the last year everyone has been adapting. How have you adapted as a company?
Sure. There's a number of different ways we've had to. I mean, you go back to April. It actually went in March. I can remember where I was, March 13th, and we're talking about shutdowns, and we didn't know how long it would last, what would be the impact on so many aspects of the business. But it really touched everything. The shutdowns at our design centers, and people need to be socially distant and they couldn't go into the office. How do you develop new products, for instance? Second, from a market perspective, we built, as I mentioned, through our retail and our e-tail partners, our business and audio. People like to hear it, and so our business indexed more heavily to the retail sector than the e-tail sector. And overnight we had to switch and, focus on e-commerce, because people immediately showed in the data and how they purchased, they wanted great technologies to upgrade audio, but they didn't want to go into a retail store, or more importantly, they couldn't go into a retail store in those early days. So we had this big shift there as well. So product development, supply chains, another one. How long was this thing going to last? How would it affect our business? We immediately shut down our supply chain, so we didn't have millions of units of product coming in if people were not going, we didn't know how the consumer would react. So we had to be very nimble from a supply chain perspective as well. And then from a communication to the end user, how do we communicate if a customer can't hear our products anymore? How do we connect with them and touch, and catch the eye of the consumer so that they're, willing to give us a try? And if they didn't know who we are, if in the case where they did, we felt we had an advantage because of the years of building our business and scaling and literally putting hundreds of millions of units into the hands of the end user.
So you're really a B2B company, but you're really dealing with consumers. How do you deal with both?
It's something that I try to talk to our leaders about, is that we are a B2B company, B2B2C, and you have to focus on both. If you just focus on what I call the gatekeeper, which are partners, so we sell to, then your product won't, you're competing against some of the biggest companies in the world, now that you have Amazon and Google and Apple in the mix, and Huawei, and Samsung, our parent, and others. these are the biggest companies in the world, and you'll be drowned out. They have more money than most audio companies out there, and we do. I think our team does a really good job of doing one, taking care of the customers that purchase from us, but they have to focus on connecting to the end user. And one of the big projects we were on before COVID hit was this move in our communications to Gen Z. With a lot of work was done. There's a big focus on millennials and what they did and their backgrounds, and Gen Z really was starting to take over, purchasing and driving dollars either through their parents or through themselves, and their psychology, is very different. And because they endured the first financial crisis in a very visceral way at home and saw their parents and community suffer, and now we haven't seen the output of the research that will come on that same group, which will be the dominant financial impact on the market. How does COVID affect the psychology of that group? Now, the initial evidence, based on what we see, has been really, really interesting in that there's this bifurcation in the market where the upper end, where people are upgrading and focusing on better sound quality and better content. And then on the other end, there's this a big upswing in the bottom price points, but the middle in many of our categories is we've seen a decline. So there's this either step up to better quality, and we'll figure all that out over time. But in the meantime, speed and being nimble and understanding who's the boss, again, the end user, and with our core values of great sound and great quality, those are the things that guide us through this period.
So you're so global. You're watching markets around the world. Are you seeing, in terms of post-pandemic, coming out of it anywhere before somewhere else? And what's the next year look like for you?
Yes. So besides the e-commerce versus retail shift, the other thing that we saw was, even though Asia was the first to be affected by COVID and has recovered much more from a health perspective, in other words, less cases is how I defined that, their market hasn't opened up as quickly as Europe, US, South America, Central America. Those markets, we saw a contraction in Q2 with a strong rebound in Q3 and big growth in Q4 over 2019, which was pre-COVID. And the challenges in Asia for us are we're still working through them. That said, so for this year, we essentially got flat. So even though we had this big business in Q2 for us, because we were so strong in Q3, Q4, we made all that up. In 2021, we're planning to grow beyond our 2019 business and 2020 business. And it'll come in much different categories than I would have told you pre-COVID. If, going into COVID, I had a 5-year plan with the team growing through different, categories. And now what we're seeing is this massive disruption in true wireless, massive growth in this space. People are abandoning wires except in the home creation market, which in that case, you can't afford latency. You can't afford, the content creation at home or, work from home environment. People don't want to be disrupted by, loss of battery or other issues that can occur if you don't have a wire presently. And so, but in other content creation, content consumption areas, we see people really shifting their purchases to the true wireless market.
And what do you see technology playing in this in terms of connectivity and smart things and interconnected everything? I know you've done a lot in automotive in that arena, but what are you seeing sort of in general for like IoT and AI type stuff?
Security. It starts with that. People are very conscious, and if you can build a product in the world that is connected, you have to really protect the end user. They're very conscious of it. Obviously, sound matters, but it stands on a base of you got to protect them. There's so much out there. Every month we're seeing reports of data theft and passwords and other worse information that's being stolen. And so having the ability to isolate your product and protect the consumer is key. So if you start with that, then after that, from a technology perspective, miniaturization is huge. Bone conductivity from a technology perspective. Our frequency expertise is paramount. We see ease of connectivity. Table stakes nowadays for the end user is if it's not easy, if they struggle more than a few seconds to get something working, your product goes right back. So this user interface is another element of your product that has evolved over the last several years, but it's extremely important now.
And where does the smart home fit in all this?
I think it continues to evolve. I think it, again, and you see it in the units that are being sold across multiple categories. You see it with the virtual assistants and how it's driving a lot of that. But again, the limiting factor right now is the security element and the ease of getting it into the ecosystem, if you will. And those are the two elements that we spend the most amount of time on and work on. And I would bet most of my competitors as well.
And are you building AI into your products, or are you basically using it behind the scenes?
So depending how you define it, if you talk about virtual assistant AI, we chose to initially build products with each of the major ones, whether they be in China or Russia or the big brands here in the US, Google and Amazon, and which we built specific products. And we said, hey, we can do the sound better, but let's compete directly with them. But also we built in their AI. Quickly we found that it was better. Customers would rather have us use it as a feature ingredient. In other words, in our Harman Kardon citation product, which has worked very well, specifically in Europe and Asia, uses virtual assistants and a form of AI in the product as a feature, but they're buying the product primarily not to get that feature. It's because of great sound or home theater or multi-room sound, things like that. In terms of learning, we have a product in our professional division that's constantly learning based in collecting data on installations of sound, and it optimizes sound in a space. And and every space is different, and materials on the wall are different. And as we do more and more installs, it learns, and we have algorithms that correct the problems with rooms. We take those algorithms and we use them in our products on the consumer side. They don't continue to learn on the consumer side because they're not all products. A true wireless product isn't necessarily connected to the cloud. A portable Bluetooth speaker isn't necessarily connected to the cloud, but we'll take the learnings from other parts of our business and pull that into our products to optimize the sound quality.
And what about the lag? I know you're creating things way in advance of when a market adopts. For example, the things you're doing in automotive, because the lead time in automotive is so long. Are you seeing a change in that because of the pandemic, or is it still the same year or two or whatever?
Well, first, let me declare that I lead the lifestyle piece, not the automotive piece, but I do know a little bit about it. So one of the things that happens is, yes, there's a 2 to 3 year lag between when an automotive supplier says, hey, I want to build this product and we need you to help with our digital display or our acoustics or our connectivity. And that we then work with them to build the solution that we agreed on at the beginning. And 3 years later, that model comes to market. And what you're describing in a challenge for years is that, as Bluetooth evolved, many times, on a 7-year-old car, the Bluetooth wouldn't work with the new phone because it didn't have the same protocols. And now what you're seeing is the shift, and have seen over the past 6 or 7 years, the shift to software and upgradable. And that move is happening right now in the automotive space, so that you're never the likelihood of obsolescence in connectivity goes down in future purchases of your automobile that you might buy in the future. And again, though, nobody wants to have their car hacked. So going back to the point I made earlier, the security element is, again, paramount. And if you can do that and offer the solution, you have something interesting to the OEMs, and we're focusing on some of those areas.
So you basically have to live in the future.
You do. And if you don't, again, built-in obsolescence is not what the end user wants nor expects. You think about your devices you have at home, whether it be your TV or your cell phone that you upgrade once every 2 years or whatever your upgrade cycle is. You got to keep the things that are closest to you, that deliver your content, as people want them and expect them to be as cutting edge as possible.
So do you ever get depressed when you see somebody using something and you know what's coming 2 years later? You say, "Oh, gee, if you could just wait a little bit, it'll be a lot better."
I don't get depressed, but I do. I think about it. In some respects, and products are like your children, and the team builds and they craft every corner piece, and then now know. I mean, in the automotive space, it's because of the build time of 2 to 3 years. It's more of a problem. But in the consumer space, things change almost every year. We're launching new products, and so. But even there, as soon as it goes out, I know that the engineers are working on something for next year that could be better. But they're all still your children, and you love each and every one of them in the same way. So
you don't love the old child more than the new one.
No. You're happy to have the new when it and you still love the older product.
So lastly, what does it look like a year from now, just in the general market of audio, sound, home, everything?
So everything, that's broad, but let's start with products. From a product standpoint, I see this continued shift towards true wireless. Right now, 2019 data was the last data. I saw the 2020 year-end stuff isn't out yet, but by the companies that we get the data from. But in 2019, 1 in 4 headphones sold were true wireless. By 2024, we predict 8 or 9 in 10 headphones. 8 out of 10 headphones will be true wireless. Okay. So that's one big shift. The other shift within the space is in the cell phones used to give you some sort of headphone in the box. Apple first dropped the headphone in the box, and you had to buy a Bluetooth head, and they took the connector off the bottom of the headphone. Now Samsung's doing it as well, and you'll see, I expect Huawei, Xiaomi, you name it, Motorola, whoever else is out there, they're all going to drop it. And so that whole market where you used to get a headphone with your device is going to shift to the space that the whole the aftermarket headphone space. So that's going to create an enormous shakeout in the business. Audio, I think, this shift in audio that occurred in COVID will continue, where a shift towards the higher end. And I think because people are consuming more content in more portable ways, whether it be tablets or computers or screens of smaller size, or in their home with sound bars, this upgraded sound, people are used to it, and they're going to want more of it. And this trend towards higher quality audio will continue. I think that this trend about a content creation and consumption, whether it be podcasts or books, people taking audio books, or virtual concerts will continue, but that upper end will grow. That said, in our pro business, we're planning second half of 21 this snapback, if you will, of people wanting social experiences. Watched the Clemson Notre Dame football game the first time they played, and at the end, the fans ran onto the field, and it should have been a socially distant moment, but they lost their minds for a second and enjoy, and they ran onto the field. People miss that. People miss that social connectivity, and as soon as we're able to, I think that business is going to roar back. But people will continue to consume content of all types, concerts, virtually, face to face. I think we've, this notion of, certain areas have advanced 5 or 7 years worth of market growth in a 6-month period. I think it's there, and it'll continue. In the case of markets, I think that e-commerce, our total business a year ago was 20% between our partners of our total business. Our total revenue was sold online, and 80% retail. That mix jumped to 31% in 2020. So I expect that to continue, and we're actually setting a target to get it to 35% in 2021. So those are a couple of areas where I think we're going to go long term. I think this connectivity is forever there. I think, we launched a new category this year in the middle of the pandemic. In March, we actually launched gaming. We'd never been. We brought we actually purchased a company that had incredible patents in 3D and acoustics. 3D, so you could locate sound specifically behind you, in front of you, the left of you, the right of you, and we incorporated that in our launch, and it's been very wildly successful. It's another form of content. We believe that in the future, however content is delivered, we can improve the way it sounds for you, and that's our goal.
Love it. Well, I look forward to, I hope, seeing you in January, next January at CES in Las Vegas at the Hard Rock. We're going to see all this stuff physically again, I certainly hope. Thank you, Dave Rogers, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.
Thanks. I appreciate it.